Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel. In this video, we're going to be considering the Watchtower study for the week of July 28th to August 3rd, 2025. Thank you so much for joining us in this consideration, and now let's jump right in. Study Article 21, entitled, Seek the City That Will Remain. We're earnestly seeking the city to come. Hebrews 13:14. Focus. How Hebrews 13 can benefit us today and in the future. Paragraph 1. What did Jesus foretell would happen to first century Jerusalem? And he said in a prophecy, Luke 21:20, that the holy city would one day be surrounded by the enemies, by encamped armies, and their goal was destroy the city. And Jesus told his disciples, his followers, that as soon as they saw those armies, which turned to be the Roman armies, they were to leave immediately. Okay, question 2. What reminder did the Apostle Paul give to the Hebrew Christians in Judea and Jerusalem? And this is what we know today as the Hebrews letter. And the Apostle Paul said some instructions to survive the destruction of the city. And if those Christians hope to survive, they would have to be ready to abandon their homes and businesses. And in a similar way, with that example of the city in mind, the Apostle Paul referred a new state, saying, "We don't have here a city that remains." And he added, "But we're earnestly seeking the one to come." Paragraph 3. What is the city having real foundations, and why do we seek it? We believe that this city is God's kingdom, and we're seeking God's kingdom, the city having real foundations, because this system of things is temporary and is weak. So we believe our firm hope is put on the kingdom. And that's why we seek the real city with real foundations. And this is the city to come, God's kingdom. Okay, and we'll consider about 3 important points, like how Paul's inspired counsel helped first century Christians to keep seeking the city to come. Second, how Paul prepared them for the future events. And third, how his counsel helps us today. Now let's move on to the sub-theme, trust in the one who will never abandon you. Paragraph 4. Why was Jerusalem important to Christians? Was a very remarkable and unique city on the earth and the entire globe. First of all, was the center of true worship. The Holy Temple was there, and Jehovah showed his approval on his temple, and many significant and remarkable events happened in that area, in that ground, in that city. Even Jesus, he was born in Israel, and that's very remarkable and significant. Even today, this city exists, and that's not by chance. There is an explanation about it, and we know even the Roman Church at the beginning, they were about to have their center the Vatican in Jerusalem, but they didn't get it. And that's why now they are in their own place in Rome, Italy. And that's another subject for another video. And of course, in the 33 CE, the governing body, the group of elders and apostles were there in Jerusalem. So they were in Jerusalem. Their headquarters was in Jerusalem. The group of apostles and elders. And of course, the culture, the meaningful culture, significant culture of the city was very relevant, very important to the Jews. Number 5, how did Paul prepare the Christians for what was coming? And he warned them, he reminded them that from Jehovah's perspective, there was the old covenant and there was a new covenant, new changes, new understandings, and of course the coming of the promised Messiah. Okay, now let's move on to number 6. Why was Paul's reminder found at Hebrews 13, 5 and 6 timely for Christians? And he told them, let your way of life be free of the love of money. Very important. While you're happy with the present things. Okay, we understand this advice, and they need to put this advice in practice, because soon after receiving this letter, they could be obligated, they're about to leave behind their homes, their business, and most of their belongings, if they like to keep their lives. And then they would have to face what lay ahead of them. If someone reject that advice, this person may die. Number 7, why should we strengthen our trust in Jehovah now? And we understand we live in complicated times, difficult times, and the Great Tribulation is very near. So it's a very similar situation like the first century Christians, and we must stay awake and ready and be ready. We may have to leave behind some of our belongings, trusting completely that Jehovah will never abandon his people. And right now, we can show our loyalty to the kingdom. Let's move on to the next one. Obey those taking the lead. This is paragraph 8. And we read, what instructions did Jesus give to his disciples? A very simple but powerful instruction. When they see the enemies around the city, immediately he said, let those in Judea begin fleeing to the mountains. Luke 21:21. Now the main point is there were many mountains in the region. So in what direction would they flee? Number 9, why might Christians have wondered which mountains to flee to? Why? Because there were many mountains around, the mountains of Samaria, the mountains of Galilee, Mount Hermon, and the mountains of Lebanon, and the mountains across the Jordan. So, he didn't say exactly what mountain. He just said the mountains. The city of Gamla was there also, located in that region. Number 10 and 11, how might Jehovah have provided guidance? And we know the Holy Spirit was acting in that time with the apostles, with the first Christians, and they received inspired guidance from the Holy Spirit. They have this gift of knowledge, and they have this revelation, divine providence, received revelation given to approved man. They were commanded to migrate from the city before the war and to settle a certain city of Perea called Pella. So they received this message from the Holy Spirit and they acted in consequence. Question B, how do Christians benefit from obeying those taking the lead? So this group of elders and the apostles, they received this revelation, in other words, those taking the lead, and they eventually gave these instructions to the rest of the congregation. Question B, how did the Christians benefit from obeying those taking the lead? And they survived. They saved their life. They kept alive. Of course, they lost their belongings, but they kept their life. They kept alive. Number 12 and 13, how has Jehovah guided his people during critical times? And Jehovah uses those taking the lead, some men, to provide his people with specific directions. The book of Judges, we find even some women were helping God's people, taking the lead. A couple of women. And during the 2020, the elders received instructions for meeting the spiritual needs of brothers and sisters, valuable information at the right time. And we received these through our website, through our JW app. As a result, we remained united, and we had our convention, our virtual convention, and was really remarkable and unexpected. Show brotherly love and hospitality. Number 14, according to Hebrews 13, 1-3, what qualities did Christians need to show during the last days of the Jewish system of things? And we read about brotherly love. This is one. This is the kind of love you show to your family, to your relatives, those who you really love. And the other is hospitality to an even greater degree. Okay, let's discuss why these qualities are so important. Number 15, why did the Hebrew Christians need to show brotherly love and hospitality after they fled? And this is why they literally were just with their own clothing. The only thing they had was their own clothing and some few belongings in some cases. So they had to depend on one another as they traveled through the mountains, and they were sharing food, encouraging, emotional support, spiritual support, working together as a team. Number 16, how can we show love for fellow worshippers who need our help? We want to love our brothers with kind words, but not just with kind words, even with actions, with real actions, when they are going through situations, when they are under the weather, and that makes the difference. So some friends need our support, as we can see in this image. So this makes the difference, brothers from Ukraine and other countries. Number 17, why is it vital to cultivate brotherly love and hospitality now? Because this is a training. If today we're doing well, probably we'll do well during the Great Tribulation. But the opposite is true if today it's hard for us to apply this advice. Try to imagine during the Great Tribulation. So, Jehovah is training us now to cultivate brotherly love and hospitality, qualities that will be absolutely vital at that time. The last paragraph, how may we imitate the first century Hebrew Christians? Through our actions, through our words, through our decisions. We have this information, so may we earnestly seek the city that will remain God's kingdom and enjoy the everlasting blessings that it'll bring. Okay, friends, that's a wrap for this video. Thank you so much for joining us in this consideration. We hope you have a wonderful day and hope to see you in our next video. Bye for now.